Well, should we start this thing?
Let her rip, I guess. See what comes out.
Let her rip. Yeah. So if you're joining us today, Scott Walker and I'm Marty Ellis. This big brute over here is Scott Walker. And yeah, we're going to kind of kick something off that's a little bit new, a little exciting as well. And yeah, I mean, why don't you just tell a little bit about we can start with your heart, where you want to go. We can start with, how we met. We can start with your story. I mean, whatever you want, man.
Yeah, just having a cup of coffee together, yeah?
Yeah, that's good.
Where do we start?
Well, we met, it's been about a year and a half now.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was Chief Russell.
It was, yeah.
Jeff, to you, in the gym, right?
Yep. Retired Chief Russell now, huh?
Yeah, retired Chief.
Doesn't shave, doesn't cut his hair anymore.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a bit, so he might be a little bit more shaggy.
He is shaggy.
Yeah,
nice. I think he's loving it, man. That retired life's treating him well, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, super grateful for him connecting us and putting ideas we have in our brains and in our hearts to paper and seeing them come to reality. So, Marty, I think we've both got a lot kind of cooking in the fire between both of us.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot to articulate. So where do we start? We just start. I know we've talked about so many things. Podcasting, quarterly physical events for challenge, iron and sharpening iron, brotherhood, accountability, growth, faith, fitness, strengthening our minds, our brains, impacting our communities, giving back to communities, and doing some really cool stuff. And what does it mean to kind of sharpen that? And what does it mean to be men in this day and age? And what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And, when we met, you had done your EdgeWalker. I think, so what was this year was it third or fourth?
I think that was our fourth. Yeah, that was our fourth annual 5K and plunge. So next year will be the fifth. And that's kind of solidified into something cool too. Like we did that every year in February. So yeah, next year will be the fifth year. And we kind of landed on consistency. So every year, the Saturday before the Super Bowl, we're going to do it just so people put it in their calendars. And so that event can take off and do its thing. And this last February, we had, I want to say like 30 guys. Still snow on the ground, still freezing, but I was amazed at how many people showed up. Honestly, I was expecting just about no one.
Yeah.
And people put it in four-wheel and made it there, and ran 3 miles and still jumped in the Puget Sound. And
yeah, absolutely,
cool, man.
Yeah, I think it's rad, and so I know that we covered this, once on the 10-16 Man podcast, but just for other people that are listening this time, what was the impetus for the EdgeWalker?
Yeah, so kind of the impetus was I had been injured. I had snapped a bicep tendon on a hot tub and just couldn't really do much. Started feeling sorry for myself and couldn't train. And that was one of my first thoughts when I got injured. I'm not going to be able to lift. I'm not going to be able to train. And so the impetus was like me sitting on a couch not knowing what to do after surgery and going, well, what can I do? Well, I can run, I can walk, I can squat, I can still kick. So rather than kind of go down the pity party, and it was, well, what can I do with what I have? And that's kind of been a common theme in my life too, rather than kind of looking at challenges and going, well, I can't do that, or that's too much. Look at life and say, well, what can I do with what I have right now? And that's probably what we're doing here today, right? Like, we haven't overthought this. This isn't super scripted. We're just stepping on a chair with a couple of friends going, well, what can we do with what we have? And this is what we can do. So that was the impetus, was, well, I'm pretty comfortable and I was injured and I need to embrace those things that are uncomfortable. And one of those uncomfortable things was, there's this hill right by my house that doesn't look fun at all to run up. So we're going to run up it. And, well, what else can I do that would add an element of uncomfortability? And that was, let's plunge in the sound and build a fire and just kind of embrace the challenge and difficulty. And I don't want to do this, but you're going to do it anyway. And I think there's life lessons there, right? Like, I don't always feel like doing things. I'm not always super motivated. There are times, as well as I do, when you get off shift where you don't want to do anything. And it's just that force of will to go, no. I did this yesterday when I got off shift, man. I was like, I don't have time to work out. It's a Sunday. I've already kind of missed going to church with the family. So I don't have time to go to the gym, but I do have time to do something. So I just ran around my neighborhood, put my shoes on, laced them up, and ran. And by the end of that, I got home and I was like, I'm really glad I did that. But man, it was hard to get myself out there and to actually do it when everything in my body and my mind was saying, just scroll on your phone for a couple hours. You got to be somewhere at once.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the difference between dedication and motivation, right? That motivation goes away. Dedication says, no, it's going to suck, but I have to do it. And you know that, and you've done it enough that once you get through it,
that's right,
you're going to feel better.
100%, man. Like, you have enough reps in that you can kind of get the bird's eye view and go, yeah, I do not feel like doing this, but I don't care because I've done this enough times that I know I'm going to feel a lot better when I do it.
Yeah.
And my day's going to go a lot better. And I'm not going to want to sit around and nap all day and get nothing done, and it'll kind of supercharge my day. So, if I can push through, there'll be gold on the other side of it, and I'll go looking for that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Just do it. It really is, Nike was pretty genius with that slogan when they came up with it. It's really simple, but it's true. Just go do it, man. Just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not something that it extends beyond that, because you are somebody that, we text back and forth. You just one step at a time, or just one line at a time, or just keep making progress. And that, it's a big deal for people that don't really know how big of a deal it is. There's a lot of people that, like you said, I woke up, I don't feel good. I got aches and pains, and I'll be the first to tell you there are times that I skip out because I've got aches and pains or whatever. But the inaction hurts my body far more than the action of doing something. But the same is true for, a discipline of reading scripture, or the discipline of, making moves on your property, like fixing something up. Man, I'm an 80% guy. I've got like 15 projects at 80%, but just keeping plugging away, and pretty soon it'll be done.
Yeah, and sometimes I've had to come up with little cheat codes, which are like, okay, can you walk a mile? I'm like, who can't walk a mile? I can walk a mile right now. And it's like your projects too. Like, I can spend 30 minutes out there, and that right around minute 25 or 30, you're like, I could do this for a couple hours. I'm in a zone.
Yeah.
But you got to get in that zone. And in order to get in that zone, you have to move. You have to do it.
Yeah.
You got to make the first cut on the chop saw or whatever it is. And if you don't, you never build that momentum or that forward motion, and then you're just stuck. It's funny, man. I was sitting in a lecture on mindset and mentality at Keller Williams with Carl Royston. He's great, man. I love his mentality, his mindset lectures. And he was like, what is something out there that keeps you guys going, or something you hang your hat on, or a phrase or whatever it is to kind of get that forward motion going? And I said, never believe the first mile. The first mile will lie to you.
Yeah, baby.
Because it's true, man.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, it's exactly what we're talking about right now. Like, if you think like, oh man, there's no way I'm getting a 5 or 10K in a day, or there's no way I have a full workout of the day, or there's no way I have, a 2-hour gym session in me. I just don't. It's like, yeah, but just go get that first mile in, or that first set, or that first cut on the chop saw, or that first podcast. Just get it under your belt, and then you'll realize, no, that first mile was really lying to me.
Yeah.
Because you can quit at 0.8, but you just haven't got there. Like just a little bit more, and you're like, I've tricked myself into going, just go get a mile, you lazy turd. Like, go, come on.
Yeah.
And then I'll get out and get that mile, and I'm like, well, that turned into 10, and I felt great. But I guess that's what it takes for me. I mean, that's something I've learned in my own.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and true to that is our minds will tell us that you can't do it oftentimes, right? And so you go to run a mile it can be tough, right? For you who have done it before, for me who's done it before, it can be tough. And then not only that, but you could go out and run a mile in probably, 10 minutes pretty easy. You could run definitely just kind of trot a mile in 12 minutes quite easy. Some people that's not so. But when you get cooking, you get up to that like 7.5, 7 minute mile, especially if you're trying to carry that out for multiple miles, your legs, you start to feel maybe in your knees or your hips, or you're breathing a little hard, and your mind's like, man, that's enough. You got to just lay off a little bit. But, I see it in my 11-year-old boy who runs cross country, and he ran with us in the EdgeWalker, where
Man.
he
was
just smoking, man. And so he had the, speaking of smoking, he had the guy that, has a cigarette, I think after or before he runs, just kind of as a
old Nick Dickinson
little funny thing, right?
Yeah.
But that guy was fast. And Benjamin he kind of had his mindset like, I'm not going to lose. And so he just doing everything his little legs could do to keep up with him. But he was able to shut his mind off and tell it to shut up, and don't worry about how your legs are feeling. Don't worry about how much you're breathing, because your body will say, no, this is too much. And a buddy of mine, Ryan Summer, who has done some marathons and really into fitness, he was talking about, and I want to say like, you only utilize like 40% or 60% of your capacity, and you have 40% more. I can't remember what it was, but if we think about that in our day-to-day life, whether we're pursuing this project or whatever, just no, you can do it. Set aside, if you do 15 minutes a day, I mean, that's quite a bit over the span of a week, and then over a month, then over a year. And if you keep that consistency, right?
Dude, absolutely, man. Like, if I've learned anything in these last few years into this journey that I'm on, it's really easy to see the results of someone that's put in 10 years of work, and you're like, I'll never get there. But if you break it down into smaller chunks and go, like we said, like, well, I can read scripture for 7 minutes this morning, right? Like, but we get overwhelmed, and then we procrastinate, and we're like, well, I should be reading an hour every day. It's like, well, yeah, but what if you just got some forward momentum on that thing? And what if it was like, I am setting a timer for 7 minutes, for 5 minutes, for 50, whatever it is, and I'm doing this. And you start spooling up.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, everyone, set these incredibly massive goals that are impossible to maintain or obtain so you can come a little bit under. And then I'm like, I don't know if that's the most helpful kind of frame for me. For me, it's a little bit more of like, did you get just a little bit better, or did you even move that project, move that business, move that muscle, whatever, a little bit forward? If you do that over time, and then, oh, wow, I am moving this thing forward. And I think too, like, we just talked about that. The first mile's a liar. It is about the mile. It is about the physicality. And I think this is why it's so important, why we're trying to do these quarterly events with the 10K ruck we got coming up next month, with the EdgeWalker 5K and the other two that are kind of in process. Is, yes, the first mile is a liar. And yes, it's true about fitness and physicality, but it's also true about just about everything else in life. You could say, like, but this isn't about the first mile. It is, but it isn't.
Right.
It's about everything.
Yeah. And that's kind of your, what I've heard on your heart, what I hear from you is that you want to bring other men along that can taste that, right? Push them through something that's difficult. Not just, I think there's a lot of stuff out there, right? That's like, hey, come do something hard, prove your, but it's more than that. It's kind of creating a, that one event can trigger something in somebody that says, hey, no, I went and did something hard, but let's not stop there. Let's bring that into the rest of our life. And, because for you, that didn't only help for your body, but for your mind as well.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. The physicality is it's something that, the longer I've been, in the gym, working out, running, doing hard stuff physically, the more I realize, like, man, a lot of these guys that are stereotypically just meatheads or gym rats, there's so much more depth to them than you could ever imagine. And you read some of these old school, whether they're fighters or bodybuilders or cyclists or entrepreneurs or whatever, you realize, like, wow, these guys are kind of like tapping into a philosophy of life. I was listening to old Quadzilla, Tom Platz, the big leg guy, the bodybuilder from the golden era, the 70s and 80s. And I'm like, I just thought this guy was a dumb steroid meathead, but like, I listened to his whole philosophy of training, and I'm like, this dude's a philosopher. He is super well-rounded. Like, I was blown away by some of the things that how he would articulate. It's not what you would expect. And so I think there really is something to physicality, and our mindset, our mentality, and even mental health, right? Like, if you are like, man, I feel like garbage, and I'm not saying it's like a cure-all for clinical depression or what have you, but now, if you're really physical, if you're really doing things, if you're really serving others, if you have some type of purpose and you're pushing yourself, gosh, you're going to find you feel a whole lot better than if you just sit on the couch and feel sorry for yourself. And that was probably the impetus too to that 5K. Like, what can I do? Well, not much, but I can do something. And wow, I'm actually feeling a whole lot better than if I just sit on the couch and mope in pain and have whiskey at night and watch TV.
Yeah.
Like, there's something that gets sparked in you, especially as a man, when you're like, I did something difficult today and I didn't want to, and I overcame it. I've had so many times where I'll come off a shift and I'm just feeling horrible. Like, no energy, no motivation, like a work hangover, right? And I go run that 5K and jump in the water, and it's like, reset, I'm good. But I don't want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know if I do it, it's going to be a reset. But your mind is just playing a game with you. Don't do it. There's so many. You should relax. This is relax. This is what I need to do to relax. is to get that little push. We're basically like dogs that need a walk every day, right? Like, and if we don't get that walk, we get rangy and bad behavior and start barking at everything.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So your hope would be to then be able to do that more often, like once a quarter,
Yeah.
get men together to do it. Yeah.
How about you, brother? How do you feel about, the ruck, the EdgeWalker, your own personal disciplines and training? Like, how does that speak to you? How does that impact different areas of your life, your relationships, your job in the fire service, your podcasting, your reading?
Yeah. I mean, the EdgeWalker type of stuff for me is, I mean, really what I found, is that, I mean, I kind of can do a lot of stuff on my own. I enjoy time on my own. I like doing projects on my own. But there is something about getting together with other men. Whether it's, we go out on a ruck and you might be walking beside somebody for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and, just chatting with them about their life. And and that's when that, you start to rub up against stories and you can feel your story building somebody else up or being built up by somebody else's story. And just that sharing time together, I think is huge. But you're sweating and hurting at the same time. And it's like, hey man, I gotta kick this up a notch. I'm not hurting as much as I need to be. But then, even when you're out there by yourself and you're just pushing it, you're leaning into the pain and you get done and now you're sitting around just chatting with some guys, eating some food together, having a drink together, whatever it may be. There is a shared experience now with those guys. And that's what makes, I think, the fire service so great for us, because you might be arguing and bickering with some dude. You go spend some time, pulling ceiling, digging apart, overhauling some fire, working, rolling hose, cleaning it off, cleaning all your gear, ready to be done. And then you go get a meal together and now you are sharing. You've got that shared experience. The mood is lighter. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just went through, some stuff. And so there's, I think our culture, some of the beauty of it is that we have made life easy, but some of the destruction is that we've made life easy. And when you have those easy times, you hear like it produces some really bad times. Like if you get complacent, you're going to the coffee shop every day. You've go drive through a car wash. You have the next door neighbor's kid mowing your lawn. You have somebody that comes over and cleans your house. And not that any of that stuff is bad in and of itself, but, if on the other side of it, you're not grinding and pushing and not that life's about grinding. I don't want to push on some of that, mainstream stuff like, oh, you got to be hustling on the side and making this and that. But I've also seen men without purpose, or men who find their identity just in firefighting, or men who find their identity in just their muscles, or like finding their identity in something that can be taken away. It just ends up being dangerous for them. So I think that, what you've started in the EdgeWalker, and then we did the ruck the next year, or last year for the first time. It's just, kind of tapping into a little bit of that, kind of artificially putting that into people's lives so that they can start to take that into the rest of their life, and they can feel a little bit more comfortable. And then maybe you gain a brother in there that like, you're out lifting, Chief Russell says, hey, Marty's you kind of align, we get together and we start to move in a direction together. Mm-hmm. Right. I start taking 1016 Man podcast, have you on it. A lot of what I'm saying and doing and the goal and purpose of it aligns with where you're going. And then the stuff that you're doing. It's really just trying to build up boys and men alike, which is, in the purpose of building up and forming up men who are grounded in their faith. They're grounded in their manhood. They are grounded in being productive men in the community, who are serving the community, who are producing at their work. And then, but above and beyond those things is you're being a good husband. Mm-hmm. You're raising kids. You're loving your kids. And so, all that, it's kind of it for me, man.
Yeah. The relationships that happen in those things too. Like we talked a little bit about this idea of, I can't remember which sociologist talked about, the idea of a third space that we don't have anymore. It's work and home. And that third space used to be, maybe it was sitting around a fire after a hunt, or, for most of Western civilization, it was like, well, we go to church. And then after we, have a potluck, and it's a place where people can build networks, friendships, relationships, discussions. We weren't constantly bombarded with a perpetual new news cycle. And so you had this third space that wasn't work or home, but it did something for you. And we've kind of lost that. Our third space now is I go to work, I come home, and I plug into technology. And there's something that is our world is so hyper reality now with internet and AI, and you don't even know if you're looking at a real image anymore, or if anything's real. Everything just seems fake and manufactured and clickbaited, and there's not much out there that's more real than throwing a rucksack on your back and hanging out with guys in nature and seeing Mount Rainier in the background in the back of your property. I think there is a hunger out there for like warts and all reality. Like these events aren't super polished. We're not a Spartan. We're not a Tough Mudder yet. It's, 20, 30, 40 guys getting together, and it's real. It's what it is. This is real. This isn't something on a screen. You're participating in it. And yeah, there's a little friendly competition and a little busting of chops and a lot of tall tales and stories and fun times, but it's real. And I think people are starting to hunger for that.
Absolutely.
This isn't curated with filters. This is real. I'm actually rucking. This is an actual pack on my back, and this is an actual person that I'm interacting with on a trail. This isn't pixels on a screen. And these are real trees and real mountains and real air. And this is reality. This is the real world. Cool, make a reel out of it and send it and post it. But the hope in that is like to draw you back into the real stuff. And yeah, man, there's something there that I think that we've created that we're missing in this day and age, in this society, and in this culture. There's no ability to connect with reality. That's reality.
Yeah. And I think that some of the things we've talked about too is, what do we feel that is missing for men in our society, and so how do we fill a void? And yeah, there are things out there, but what can we actively do when we see a hole to fill? So yeah, quarterly ruck, get on here and talk about some just talk about some things that we learned that are good for mental health for men. Talk about, different topics that are coming up in our culture, and how do we respond to that as men? How do we become better husbands? How do we become better fathers? How do we hold ourselves well in a space where we don't necessarily feel invited or feel like we are, equipped? How do we enter this world as in the masculine, right? And in a place that is maybe pushing against that, because
be like, it's okay. This is who we are, and you're welcome here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is who we are. So we don't need to whitewash it or cover it up or be ashamed of who we are. Like, we're bringing who we are to other people who might feel the same way and saying, come be a part of this.
Yeah.
And like you said, the goal isn't we just want to, I don't know, be an influencer or whatever. Like, the goal is to actually impact other people's lives.
Yeah.
And the goal is to change. And so, I mean, that's what your podcast is, right? That I've listened to your guests, the people you have on. It's like you are trying to put something good out into the world with all the junk that's out there. And it's a real small sliver that's out there, but it's out there, and it's a voice, and it's needed. This is who Marty Ellis is. And this is what God has called you to do, and he's placed it on your heart. So why not share that gift with others, for people that are longing for that as well, and just invite them into that life?
Yeah.
Say, come on in, man. Well, who cares what everyone else says? And, there's a lot of dudes out there that are just kind of, I see it a lot when we do the invites to the physical events, where they're like, well, I'm not in shape for that. I don't know. And I'm like, dude, we're not like a bunch of CrossFitters, or we're just normal people. Yeah, we work out. Maybe we are in a little bit better shape than you, whatever, but you're not competing against me.
Right.
Like, this really is for you. Well, I need to get in shape. Then come ruck. That's how you start, right? That's that first mile. Well, come ruck and see how bad you suck. And then maybe that'll motivate you to be like, I need to do this more. I really like that. But there's no one's out here judging you. Well, no one's like, oh, he's 300 pounds and out of shape. I see that person and I'm like, dude, that inspires me. Like,
yeah,
let's go, brother. Or they're bringing their kids, or they're bringing their sons, or they're just here. And it's like, that person is fighting their own war internally. And that's what we need to do, right? That's what we're trying to encourage. It's not, I know you're going to smoke me on things. I know I can't run with your son. I know that you're going to be better at some things. I might be better at some things, but it doesn't matter, because me being in this moment is my own battle.
Yes.
What's going on with me up here? Can I catch Dovich on this ruck? I don't know. He thinks I can. This is kind of fun. This is a mind game. So now he's looking back, and I'm in my mind, I'm like, I probably won't catch this stud, but
yeah.
But then it's like, internally, I'm like, well, what am I capable of? And it sounds, it's overused, but it really is me against me. Like, I'm running my own race. I can't compete with a guy that's 21 or 16, or I can't. But I can compete against myself. And there's something there that's like, your biggest competitor is you.
Yeah, for sure. Because you said you find out how much you suck, but you also find out that you can do it.
And
right?
You find out maybe there's more to me in there than I thought.
Yes. And like, oh man, I just ran 3 miles, jumped in a cold ass sound in February with snow on the ground, and I'm okay. Yeah, maybe I'm sore the next couple of days because it's outside of my norm. Okay. But then you're like, oh, so then you go and you do something else. And now next thing you know, your wife, your kids are like, something's different about dad. Not that he's lost 50 pounds, which in the process he has, but man, he seems a little more patient. He seems a little more present.
Dude, yeah, man.
With me. And because Yeah, I mean, and we're competing against each other, man. Like
There's something healthy to that.
yeah, absolutely. So
It's an ego buster, man.
yes. So you're out there at 300 pounds, or you've just come off a knee surgery or whatever, and you're going slow. Some guys got 50 pounds on their back, another guy doesn't have anything on his back. He's just out there, walking 6 miles. But when everybody that gets done feels a little bit better. Yeah. They're a little lighter. They stand eye to eye with the same with those guys where maybe they entered in kind of with their head down, and they're I mean, listen, we size people up when we walk into every room.
Sure we do.
Could I take this guy? Is this guy going to be faster than me? Look at the size of the pack on that guy's back. And then you go out and do it, and when you're done, all of that stuff disappears. That's now right. You're just talking to people, the stuff between their ears, and there's something healthy about that, man. It breaks down barriers.
It does, man, dude.
It's wild, man. And we just, and even to provide, we've talked about this, even to provide a space where maybe once a quarter we read a book or to initiate conversation, get us on the same playing field so that people don't feel like, again, you just get together and chat about stuff, which I think we should do too. But now you've both all read the same book. Mm-hmm. You're on the same playing field, and it sparks other conversations. That's so right, the book isn't the thing. The book is the thing that brings people together, gives you like that even playing ground, and then you can talk.
And we're just letting people light themselves on fire and go, right? Like kind of John Wesley. Like I had a buddy, he's like, hey, have you guys ever considered reading this book? It was actually Peter Wickstrom. You know Peter Wickstrom?
I do.
I said, Peter, what would you think about leading a study on that? Like, this is obviously important to you. This would be kind of cool to see something that you're passionate about and just organize it and go with it. Like, we're not here to micromanage. It's like, yeah, we've got goals of where we want to take this thing. I think we want to row our boats in the same direction, but we're not here to be the two chiefs of the whole thing. We want to give it some leadership and encourage it and water it and till the soil and grow it. But it's like that is something that we would love to have in this group.
Yeah.
Now, it would be different if we had some knucklehead that's like, oh, I want to study this book on how to sleep with 100 women, right? We might be like, hey, bro, I think you're in the wrong group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Like we do have a direction that we're going, and we both have a heart and a common mission and a drive where we want to see this thing go, which is to make people better, not worse. And so, I love that kind of stuff. Like you said, those relationships happen where they wouldn't happen, and they get a feel together in the group as that the brothers and the iron sharpens iron. They're like, hey, wait a minute, I'd like to do this. Yeah. And we go with it, man.
Yeah.
Structure it, send the emails. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's study that book. Let's see. Let's go ahead and debate this. Let's go ahead and disagree. Let's go ahead and agree. Let's go ahead and get a little bit thicker skin and be challenged and challenge one another and see where we end up on this.
Yeah. Let me hit the head real quick here.
Yeah.
So you touched on, do you have something?
Oh, I don't know, man. There's just so many cool things, man. And I love, hearing your heart and hearing what drives you and finding a way for the both of us to work together. And I think we see the value of doing difficult things physically. We see the value of putting a podcast out into the world that wants to make a difference, that some things are good and they're worth fighting for, kind of the Tolkien thing. We're gospel guys, we're men of faith. And if that's not you, that's fine. You're welcome to join. Welcome to jump in. And I just feel like there's something that we're doing here that is needed in the world. And we're being who we are. And we're getting that out there. So, the book studies, reading books, growing, like challenging ourselves, challenging each other, and being a part of something that provides space for people that are looking for that to be able to do it. This isn't just a gym membership. You can get a gym membership. This isn't just a book club. This isn't just, just a Bible study. This isn't just a, whatever you want to say, or however you want to shake that down. Like, this is something that is on our hearts, and I think it's something that has been an idea in our brains for a while, and we're doing our best one little step at a time to bring it to fruition and see what happens with it.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, this stuff gets me so excited, man. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if there were chapters of this, like CrossFit gyms all over the world, I'd be super stoked.
Yeah.
And I think it does fill a void and a need. Back in the day, there were YMCAs that popped up. There were, whatever, CrossFit gyms, or there were, even my tradition, man. I was reading about back in the day, the old, and this was ironic too. I found out that, so some of the more high church expression in the Anglican tradition, they were Anglo-Catholics. They started homeless ministries. They started missions. They started boxing gyms for, the wee lads to come in. And they took a lot of heat for that. And these guys were church planners and super high church and liturgical. But they're like, yeah, we're going to start a boxing gym for young men to learn, to grow, to be. And that was kind of their mission. But like, these type of things have happened throughout history. And I really feel that, we're onto something. Where it goes, I'm not sure. But I really feel like in order to be faithful to this kind of dream or vision that's been, laid in our minds and hearts, and we just need to keep taking steps and see what happens, because this is, well, I don't have many things, Marty, that get me this excited, and I wish I could make a living doing it, to be honest, because I'm like, man, quarterly physical events, hanging out with guys, doing camping, going hikes, podcasting, reading books, growing, challenging each other, getting off our computer screens, getting off our phones, getting out of our homes, with the whole heart and purpose of like being better in the home, being better leaders, like you said, man, being better husbands, better friends, better fathers, better in our community, serving, giving back in some small way, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Whether that's giving back to veterans or giving back to, the IAFF or law enforcement, or any little practical thing that we see that we want to give back to. And maybe it's not multi-million dollars, but we're doing something.
Yeah.
We're on that first mile, and man, I'm happy to be on it. And the first mile is a liar. We just got to keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And well, we've talked about doing stuff, like, how do we respond to, this issue that's in our community, and how do we do it in a way that is productive? So how do we debate? How can we take a conversation that, okay, I've lost facts that I can hang my hat on, so I'm just going to yell.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the guy that wins the conversation because I yell louder. I'm just not interested in that. I'm not interested in, right versus left. I'm not interested in, that divisiveness, but, come at it with, okay, well, this is where I'm at. This is where you're at. Okay, well, yeah, but what is your vision? Like, what's the end goal here? Because we can sit here on our, on our opinions on it, but where are we going? Because if we have different visions, then maybe we should start there. Maybe we should start trying to find some common ground on that. And so, yeah, I mean, just how do you debate? And then, you talked about physicality as men. I was talking to my daughter on here. We were setting this up, and I was asking her, how, what should a dad do? We ended up talking about protecting. And so, hey, well, how do I protect you guys? When we're walking down the street, what side of the curb am I on? She said, oh yeah, closest to the cars. Well, why? Well, because you're a boy. And I'm like, well, why is that important? She's like, well, I don't know, but the reality is that that's the role that we should be in. We should be in a protector role. And if you don't feel like you're capable of doing that, okay, well, start, Yeah. So we could, and we've talked about, well, how can we get, sons and fathers, or sons and, or young men and mentors together and just teach them how to handle themselves a little bit, So, you take an issue like bullying in the school, and we talked about this before, but, statistics say that these bullying programs are like 20% effective, which, that's really great to them. But they say that if somebody intervenes just